will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for bid during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Mendel Rivers to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner. The revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on reports from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be...
All right, let's get started. So today is December 2nd, 2020. This is technically Rose Golden Hour number 8. Number 7 was postponed, and I will get to that very, very soon as to why it was postponed. I honestly wasn't sure how I was going to go about this particular live in itself. I had this space open for someone, and I guess that someone was me. And yeah, I guess the overall goal is for me to reflect on the past 2 to 3 weeks that I have not been on live, the things that have occurred during that time, and how I have shifted and in a lot of ways evolved into a completely different person. And I guess to start, the significance of my Iconoclast series that I launched on the 30th. So this past Monday, I launched it with Lonnie, aka Loving the Journey. And that live was electric. It was divine. It was so many different things. And we talked about liberating Black women. And she is launching a live series about liberating Black women that thankfully I'm going to be a part of. And that's going to be, broadcasted. And my particular episode, it was special because it launched on November 30th, 2020. And the entire reason why this series even exists is because of the fact that November 30th, 2006 was when the Iconoclast series through Sundance actually launched. And that was an episode between Dave Chappelle and Maya Angelou and their exchange and the breaking down of what Iconoclast means. And so I had no idea that the dates between now and then were even in sync. And so I felt like, wow, this is perfect. Everything, it was a lot of gems dropped, a lot of excitement, a lot of fun, and the live did not upload. And I was very, very devastated by the situation. But of course, live means live. And things happen for a reason. And everyone that was able to be there, it was meant for them. And, hopefully in the future, all of my other lives, that won't be necessarily the case. And if so, it is what it is. So in addition to that, I paid Lonnie for a week ahead reading. And so I talked about this in the live on Monday about the fact that I've done quite a few readings with Lonnie, and a lot of them have touched base with so many different things. And I wanted to kind of share what my week ahead reading was in correlation to where I am emotionally, physically, spiritually today. And so how her readings work for the week ahead reading is she talks about the energy of the week, things that you need to focus on, and basically the guidance from your spirits slash ancestors. And so this particular reading talked about the fact that I needed to go after what I wanted because it's right there for me, and it's just, go and grab it type situation. And something is being created by using my own personal power. And my ancestors or spirit guides are delivering something to you that you've been waiting for, and they have been waiting to give it to you at the right time. And it's in the works, even though you may not see everything in its entirety. I need to trust and allow my feelings and my pain to basically come to the surface. And addressing that pain to get to the root of what is actually causing it is key, because there's energy around me to create the things that I want. And I feel like the best way, or the safest way, or the most comfortable way that I've been able to express my feelings have been through these lives. And of course you would feel like, okay, in a comfortable space, you wouldn't want to tell or broadcast to the entire world, or, even my following, every single detail of my personal life. But it's also a reflection of the fact that, not everybody is available to, express those things. And I also want to be able to revisit what I was thinking in the moment, or what I said in the moment, versus, me writing things down, where I feel like I only give parts of myself when I write. And so that reading hit in the moment when I listened to what she said, as far as like the specific cards that she pulled. And so that connects me into recapping what happened from November 18th to today. So November 18th was basically Rose Golden Hour number 6, the realm of feminine energy, with Erica Thompson. We talked about a lot of different things, especially the fact that her birth, because she is pregnant with her 3rd child, and this particular birth is going to be unassisted. We talked about the fact that we grew up not necessarily knowing about menstruation, about sex, about really anything and everything that was considered taboo in our culture didn't necessarily, come to us until we searched for it as adults. And there was a question presented to me where it was like, are you going to have more kids? What is your thought on that? Yes, Grayson. No, go. Oh my God, my kids. Hold on, y'all. Come on, Grayson. Stay out here. Sorry about that. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so the realm of feminine energy. Basically talked about a lot of different things. We got on the fact that, do you want to have more kids? And I think the response I gave in that moment was like, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And I can't really decide on whether I want them or not. And so after that, that live in itself, it was very exciting. We had a lot of people watch through the end, and it felt really good. And I could see myself when I rewatched it. I had a lot of light in me, or a lot of just like, I had no idea what was going to transpire right now, and a lot of me that was oblivious to certain things, because it was like I had been asking for to get to a certain level in my career, to get, to a certain place as far as like providing for my family and things like that. And I didn't know how things would be now. And of course, you don't know everything, but hey, that is essentially what transpired for me. And so the 18th happened, And I had a client, literally 2 clients. One of them was showing preeclamptic symptoms, and she had been going back and forth from Katy to Houston going to the hospital. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to go into labor at any point. I go to the grocery store, buying things for a new client because she has nausea, constant vomiting. She's in the first trimester, and I'm buying her things that I'm going to prepare at her home. And the other client, she calls me and says, my water broke this morning. And I'm like, okay, I at least got some time because it's just the beginning and this and that. So it's a possibility that I have 2 clients about to go into labor at the same exact time. So I was very excited and also on edge because I had to work, a few days before this. And, of course, I already told my job ahead of time that, I have these clients that are due around this time. But I didn't want to feel obligated to work over being there for my clients. So, on the 19th, the client that said her water broke, okay, she had her birth initially at Wellspring Midwifery. This is in Cleveland, Texas, and I did not know what Cleveland, Texas was until I went there the first time as a brand new doula, wanting to reach out to different birth centers and get some, experience to get, certifying births and things like that. Cleveland, Texas to me means Trump country. It means Ku Klux Klan. It means that they have a lot of things on, around their homes that is Ku Klux Klan paraphernalia. And so when she went into labor and I went to go drive all that way with a quarter tank of gas in the middle of the night, it's pitch black and, trying to get to these homes. And, as the election has gone on, the intensity of Trump support has increased. And so I wasn't able to see all the signs and things on people's homes as I was, taking the GPS to get to this birth center. And so I think that happened for a reason. So I wasn't freaking out, but it was a lot like Lovecraft Country, where it's like, anything could happen. My car could literally break down right now and I'm out in this particular area. And so I get to the birth center. My client's there with her husband. Okay. And she has her mother-in-law there and her son there. This particular midwife, the last time I see her, her name is Ashley Moosley, I think. Initially, this midwife had offered to give my services to clients at a reduced price. And I believe that once she found out in the initial meeting between us that I wasn't a white Stephanie, because on the phone, I guess I sounded like a white Stephanie. Once I came there, it was like, oh no, we're just going to give you these births. Possibly, if they want a doula, then they'll be able to have you for free. And so that was the last time I had ever saw her. I thought I was never going to interact with her at all until this particular client reached out to me while I was out and about one day, and she said that she needed, or that she wanted a birth worker. And so I'm seeing her again. Of course, there's no hostility or anger or anything. It's just that I knew that I wasn't ever going to interact, and here I am. I go to the back where my client is, and she is laboring, or had been laboring for a few hours at that point, because I think she stayed home because she went into labor 9 a.m., going into the next day, which would have been that Thursday. She basically labored for about 4 hours at the location. And she wanted a natural birth. She wanted all of these different things. And the contractions and all of the intensity was too much. And throughout the time that I was there, it was like, I don't want to have a natural birth. I want to go to the hospital, and I want, an ambulance, and I want this and that. And the care immediately shifted for the midwife, because it's like, I got paid. You paid me everything, and I'm more than happy to give you the information on, transferring to the hospital. And, you're going to get an ambulance, but the ambulance, if you ask for one, but the ambulances are going to give you pain medication. Like, she's explaining all of these things right in the moment, it seems like the very first time to my client. And it's a lot of emotion that comes up when you are in labor. And we're trying to convince her, is this what you really want? Do you want to have to like ride all the way from the birth center to the hospital? And there was a period of time where it went from like the pain was so much and hysterical to just like, okay, I'm going to relax and try to like just lay here for a moment. So at that moment, I decided, okay, since she's just laying down, her husband's cuddling, giving her that oxytocin, and like they're just chilling out, I go put gas in my car up the street. Sun's out at this point. I see all of the, the crazy shit in people's homes about Trump. And I'm driving to the gas station. I get gas. They got little Trump unicorns for sale. I was like, this is insane. And I get gas. And while I'm putting gas in the car, my client's husband calls and's like, hey, we're going to go to the hospital. We're going to HCA Kingwood. HCA Kingwood is the one hospital that I had my very first client. I had her there, and there was so much wrapped up in that because I had been blatantly like disrespected. It was very subliminal, but I remember walking into the room and, the nurse referring to my client's epidural and, IV medication as her margarita mix, and my client was Hispanic. They felt threatened by me, even though I said no words. I was literally just there for my client. And other things transpired. So I felt like, oh my God, I never want to go to this hospital again. And what ends up happening is the places that you never want to go to again, you end up returning. And so this client ended up having to go to HCA Kingwood. So it had been about, I want to say 2 months in between the times that I had been there. That hospital is the worst, yes. I even left a negative review on Yelp. Yeah, it's horrible. We're going to get, Okay, so I get to the hospital. Mind you, it's been 2 months since I've been there. And it was a completely different shift. As far as the screening process, I just literally walked in, put hand sanitizer on my hands. They checked my temperature on my forehead, and they let me go straight to the back. The very first time I went, they wanted IDs, they wanted certificates, they wanted proof of who I was, they wanted like all of these different things, and I had to like explain to them why I was there. This time I was able to come and go as I pleased, and it was very like weird to me. But in exchange for that treatment, I got to see what unraveled with my client's husband, because even though they had transferred from the birth center with the midwife, right? They come to the hospital, and a lot of times people in general, birthing people, y'all will see your doctor or your midwife, and you will base the hospital off of this particular person. And a lot of times your appointments are only 15 to 20 minutes. You'll be waiting for a couple of hours just to see the person. They'll tell you whatever it is you want to hear. They'll check the little heartbeat, and then it's like, oh, okay. And what did you learn out of that situation? A lot of times, nothing. And so you're thinking, oh, the hospital is going to like give me this magical birth experience and like things are just going to be great 100% out the bat. And my client was under the impression that she was going to get a lotus birth. She was going to, have this epidural and it was going to help the pain or whatever. But she really, really wanted this lotus birth. And unfortunately, they said that the director of the hospital said that it was not safe. It was a high risk of infection to have a lotus birth. And this is solely what the nurse is telling us. And, at this time when the nurse is explaining this to my client, her husband was not in the room. He had to step out to go get the cooler for the placenta for the lotus birth, right? They had already prepared all these things that they wanted and needed, right? And when he came in, they were beginning the process of getting the anesthesia and all of that different stuff coming in for the epidural procedure and all of that stuff, right? So I'm in the restroom. I use the restroom while they're getting, their team of nurses and stuff in to help, get my client sitting in an upright position and all of that stuff. And so once I come out of the restroom, I see her husband and I'm like talking to him. And in that exchange, I'm explaining to him like, oh my God, I forgot you weren't in the room. they were talking to her about the fact that she wouldn't be able to have a lotus birth. So it shifts from, oh, we're gonna have a lotus birth. Like, that is our right to have one, and you should not, detach my baby from her placenta and this and that and all of this. And I'm thinking about the fact that, like, if we had a legal document, if we had, like, all of these different things obligating them to follow the rules and this and that, he's like, no, we don't need that. I'm going to tell them what they're going to do and this and that. I'm already aware of policies that may not always be the same as law. And, yeah, he attempted to talk to the nurse, and from there, the nurse did not necessarily like what he had to say, which was simply that we wanted a lotus birth and that's what we're going to get. She goes and gets a couple more nurses. Then it turns into he's saying the same exact thing, but he has his phone on this time, but he's only recording himself. It's in the selfie mode because I can see it from this angle. And he's saying that we have a legal right to have a lotus birth. They leave, the extra nurses leave. And so they were supposed to have gotten the director of the hospital, the doctor on call, and all of these different people to come and speak to them about why they can't have a lotus birth. And nobody ever came. It was just the same nurse that we had been dealing with the entire time. So the OB will not come into the room, because luckily they got the one OB that was VBAC friendly. So this particular client had cesareans before, and they were going to allow her to have a vaginal birth at this location. So that was the one win that we did get, right? Shortly after that, the midwife calls the husband and is like, I can hear her on the phone. Are you there being hostile? You shouldn't be there telling them what they're not going to do and this and that and threatening and this and that. And she's not even in the room to know who was being loud or who was being threatening and who was being this or that. And I know that it's because of the appointments that they had been having with the midwife. They felt like they had been having a relationship with her and all of these different things. And she's initially putting the blame on him, right? Instead of explaining to them, like, this is the policies of HCA Kingwood if you know that this is your transferring hospital. And so he's explaining to them, like, if I need to get a lawyer, if I need to get legal aid in this particular situation to advocate for my rights, I will do so. So it got to the point where the OB was refusing to give care if they decided that they weren't going to give them the, let go of the epidural. And the nurse did something so crazy, because she came into the room, because they had, between all this time, they'll say, like, oh, take a few minutes to think on it and we'll be back type situation. So that had happened. The nurse came in after he got off the phone with the midwife, and she doesn't look at us. She immediately goes to my client, sits down, leans, and puts her hand on her shoulder, and is like, I want you to know that I want your birth to be the best birth possible, and I want it to be everything that you want it to be. And tries to appeal to her while she's in a vulnerable state, literally in pain. And later on, she ends up developing an infection. But in this moment, she's just gotten the pain medication, so she's starting to feel that relief. And she's like, I don't want to leave the hospital. I already know that's what's going on in her mind. Like, I'm not leaving here, and what are we going to do from here? And so she's like touching her shoulder, like, I'm here for you, and I want all of this different stuff for you, but you got to know that, you can't have the lotus birth and this and that. And like, I'm trying to convince my client's husband, like, to just discontinue conversation until she leaves the room, because that way it won't be continued hostility. Oh my gosh, it's a lot of y'all in here. Hey everybody. And and mind you, I guess when she was on the phone with when he was on the phone with the midwife, she had probably overheard, him talking to her, just explaining everything that happened. So they're just continuing to layer on, okay, he's being hostile and aggressive and all of this stuff, right? She leaves after she's done touching the girl's shoulder, my client's shoulder. I don't mean to say that girl's shoulder. So she leaves the room again. I'm talking to them about it. Like, okay, let's weigh our options. Like, okay, they're basically gonna tell you to leave against medical advice if you choose to continue wanting the lotus birth and all of that. And are you gonna go back to the birth center? Are you gonna try to labor at home? Like, what is the end game? And essentially what has happened now is that the client and her husband are basically having to be at odds in a sense. Not that they were, but it was like that's what she set it up for them to kind of go against each other, because he wanted, they both wanted the lotus birth. She wanted, the pain meds, but she's devastated on the fact that, one, she didn't necessarily want the natural birth like she really thought she could, she would. Her body couldn't handle the pain, and she essentially made the decision to seek medication for the pain. And it's nothing wrong with that. It's just that she has started to feel guilt so drastically and so fast. And then on top of that, she thought she was going to have this one thing. And I technically talked to her about it. Like, I brought up lotus birth as an option. So it's like all of these things are kind of crashing down around her. And I basically had to be there with them while they were grieving these decisions and knowing that they are going to have to basically give in to the medical institutionalized complex. So it was very devastating. And in the moment, yeah. So once we had started to come to the sense, like, okay, we're going to let go of the lotus birth, right? Another nurse comes in, a nurse that came in with the group when he was, when the husband was telling them, like, no, we're going to have the lotus birth. This one lady comes in, but she has a security guard. And we're like, wait a minute, why is security here? Like, what is happening? Nobody is, like, screaming. Nobody's fighting. Why is she walking in with a huge dude? And he's just, like, standing there like, I'm ready for anything. And they don't really get to say too much, but the nurse comes in and says, we were told that we were being recorded the entire time while you were telling us that we couldn't have a lotus birth, and it's illegal to record us on this property, and if you're going to continue to be hostile against us, we can have you escorted and all this stuff. So all that is going to do is just intensify the emotions for both of them. So the only thing that came to me was that the midwife must have told them because the husband was confiding in her and like, yeah, I recorded myself telling them that they couldn't do stuff. So she turned around and was like, hey, he recorded y'all. So misinformation. And then the woman comes in and is like, hey, so we brought security just so you think you can just do whatever you want to do, and they continue to treat me as like, because the thing with doulas or birth workers in the birthing space, who the fuck is this midwife? She's at Wellspring Midwifery. I believe her first name's Ashley. I don't know her last name. I think it's Moosley, but yeah. So, damn, I lost my train of thought. So back to this, it was basically that I forgot where I was, y'all. Yeah, so she basically called the OB, because the OB is probably standing outside with the nurses and they're talking and stuff. So she probably called them and said, hey, he's got a camera, he's recording y'all, whatever. That's what I'm assuming ends up happening, because nobody else knew anything. Okay? So, I'm explaining to my clients, like, y'all have to basically, keep conversation between us when they're out of the room, because their goal is to do whatever is in their policy. It's not for your better good. It's for what they have been trained to do. And, if you get a good outcome out of that, then you just get it, luckily. And, yeah, so things were starting to go downhill as far as that. But then I'm like, excuse me, ma'am, can you just explain to me why you have a security guard here? oh, well, he had been being hostile and this and that. I'm like, well, he's only speaking, talking about what is his right to have, and we're talking those things through, and no one is physically harming, no one is standing up or even, exclaiming at all. Like, why? All I feel like you're doing is being threatening by having a security guard here. And so eventually they leave. We're back on the same thing as far as like, we're not going to get this Lotus birth. And then boom, she gets a uterine infection. She has choreo. So I remember her being checked at the birth center a couple times while I was there. They had checked her a few times while she was at the hospital. We can't pinpoint what specifically did it. I know that they had padding and different stuff just kind of laying up against her. And I just watched the recent Sunday Cervix with Dr. Midwife, where they talked about the fact that when you get an epidural, a lot of times they don't give a damn what is happening around you at the bottom. Like, they just kind of, just like when you push and you have to have somebody pushing your legs back when you push the baby out, they don't care if they're using too much force, and after the fact, when that numbing medication goes away and you're feeling your fucking hips and all of that stuff is destroyed because we are pushing against what you would, normally you'll be able to push back against me and say like, okay, I feel pain. You're numb. Your legs are like dead weight. So, in addition to that, they may not keep your vagina and all of that clean when it starts to leak that fluid. And other than, them having her turn from side to side, there's no openness about her being able to do, more while she's in the bed. And so, yeah, it was a lot. And so we're dealing with this infection. Her overall like temperature, her heart, her blood pressure, all these different things are all over the place. Her daughter was completely fine the entire time. It was literally just her that we were concerned about. And once they got the antibiotics and all of this stuff, oh my gosh. Hi. Speaking of Dr. Midwife. And so all of this stuff is transpiring as far as the antibiotics are going, and she's starting to feel a little bit more like herself. I took some time while they were both sleeping to go to the grocery store, get them some food because they did not have a car. The mother-in-law had to go ahead and take their child to home. And so I went ahead and got them some food so they can recover. And when I get back, we're talking about the fact that they eventually say, well, your child has a possibility of an infection due to the choreo. There's no guarantee. And so this starts to affect the golden hour and the ability to bond with their baby and all these different things. And so in the moment, it was like everybody was just, concerned about, let's just wait for her to dilate and all this different stuff. I think she had got to about 6 or 7 centimeters, and I was actually supposed to work a shift. So we were in a space to where I had time to literally go to work, and I had to leave them. Even though they were in a good space, I had to leave them and go to work for 2 hours, which was the exact amount of time that was needed for her to dilate to about 9.5 centimeters. And I had to wait for backup to come to cover this shift. Mind you, my job had said that they had somebody to cover me, but the backup wasn't going to come until a certain time. So I'm rushing back from the Heights area all the way back to Kingwood to get to HCA. And as soon as I get there, not too long, it's time to start preparing to push and all this stuff. So as Dr. Midwife explained before, the OB comes in, she's wanting us to hold her legs too far up. And it's like, no, I'm going to let her push. And whatever her legs, as far as the give she can give me, that's what I'll be able to do. But I'm not going to push her damn knees to the back of her head and then just affect her overall and harm her or whatever. Break her fucking hip. And so, the birth and stuff was beautiful. Baby comes out, all of that. So they timed, of course, obviously they time when baby comes out and all of that. But they said, essentially you're supposed to be getting that 1 hour, and you're supposed to be bonding, and they can do all of those tests while your baby is on you. So they end up taking the baby away for a period of time. They give her back. And then, so they essentially timed from when she got the tests, whatever time was left in that hour was the amount of time that they had to bond. It wasn't an hour once everything was done. And so, around this time, she was able to get breastfeeding done, though. She was able to, like, you know, connect with her baby. But then, again, they didn't find any symptoms because they said, well, if the baby is hyperventilating, if she's like having a hard time, you know, and she's gasping for air and showing all these other symptoms that she got an infection due to her mom having choreo, then we'll rush her to the NICU. Now she's automatically going to the NICU, you know, it's whatever. As soon as this 1 hour is done, we're going to transfer her. And at the time when they were still bonding and everything was good, I thought, okay, everything's fine. Because at the first birth, they immediately kicked me out after the birth. It was like, you're not going to go to postpartum recovery. You just have to, you know, just leave. So I got everything ready. I talked to them, let them know, you know, I will, you know, see them once they are discharged from the hospital. I'll be there and begin the postpartum care because I want to see my clients once a week for the first 6 weeks or whatever. So we talk, everything's good. I leave. This was around like 1 a.m. on Friday or whatever. So I get home, I go to sleep. I wake up and the husband is reaching out to me and he's calling me from his wife's phone and is telling me that he was kicked out of the hospital for being hostile. I remembered when, right before I left, they had explained to them that, you know, due to the fact that there's just the possibility of the infection, there's no real guarantee, but we just got to make sure everything's good. You don't have to necessarily worry about the NICU hours. You guys are free to come, you know, when you would like to be with your baby. You just got to keep your mask on and this and that. So I guess they didn't follow through with that with the shift change, and they told the husband he couldn't see his baby. So I go to Instagram. I see the husband's Instagram, and he's like talking to them, recording himself this time, and there's people in there this time, and he's telling them that y'all are violating our rights, and we want our baby, and we want to leave. But I hear a chick in the background talking about, well, are you going to take your baby to a different hospital? Is that what you're trying to do? Are you trying to just take your baby out and go to a new place? What is it that you want to do, sir? And it's just a whole bunch of bullshit transpiring. And so what they ended up doing was separating him from his wife and having him, you know, leave. And that's traumatizing for her because, you know, she has to go through all of this stuff alone. And he wasn't going to be able to come back until the following morning. And I'm reaching out to her. I'm sending texts to the husband's phone because they have each other's phones. So I'm reaching out to her, trying to make sure she's good. And, yeah. It was a lot of shit that transpired in that moment. And so fast forward to the next day, husband's there, everything's good. I was worried, you know, that they were going to be on some BS with the new shift, but everything appeared to be fine from their end. But for me, stuff started to intensify. So that birth was over, right? So on the 20th, so we made it past the 19th. So the 20th, I'm taking my new client to HCA Houston in Greenspoint, the emergency room, because she's having like continuous vomiting. She cannot keep any liquids or foods down. She is dehydrated. She's going through all these different things, and we take her to the ER and come to find out she has a UTI. She has all these other contributing factors to why she cannot keep anything down. And I did that right before I went into my overnight shift. So I worked from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. taking care of, you know, a client's baby for a postpartum shift. And so, so when I got home from the birth of, you know, my clients and all the crazy shit that happened at HCA Kingwood, my partner, so I go home and I'm debriefing or whatever with him because he's asking, like, you know, so what happened, you know, during the birth? How was everything? I really wasn't necessarily trying to avoid it, but I talked about everything and how it transpired and, you know, but then I started to feel grief, and all of the emotions just started to come out, because when you are a birth worker and you attend births, it's a lot of things that you exchange in those moments. And a lot of times I can see the benefits that I bring to my clients. Like, they will feel like, oh, I learned so much just from coming to a prenatal, or, you know, the things that you've given us and how you've helped our family and this and that. And then sometimes, especially when you're in institutionalized spaces, you will feel like a lot of the things aren't in your control. And a lot of times you're witnessing coercion, and you're witnessing abuse, and a lot of things. And it does a lot. And so for me being a mom, and me being a black woman, and all these different things, it just overwhelmed me. And so in the height of those emotions, trying to go to bed that night, I started to feel something that, so I started to feel sensations that indicated to me that I am pregnant. And so I wasn't necessarily sure, but it felt similar to my pregnancies with my son and my daughter. So this is another bomb that happened in the middle of all of this. And so the following day, so it's 21st, I have, so I was able to get an extra day off. I did not go to the postpartum client's home to do an overnight shift. This shit getting wild, yes. And I had bought a pregnancy test, came out positive. Then later on that day, I had a photo shoot for my podcast that I'm launching next year called Super Melanated with my two friends. And so I got all of this heavy shit on my mind and on my heart and all this stuff. And then it's time for me to go and take pictures. I had been, mind you, right before the photo shoot itself, I had attended another birth, but that was as a birth assistant. So I had just been up all night attending that, knowing that I was pregnant. I remember videoing myself and feeling like, damn, I don't want to video myself, because if I decide that I want to have an abortion, then I basically would have record of myself pregnant, right? And so now I'm at this photo shoot, and I'm exhausted, I'm overly emotional, and I'm trying to keep it together with two people that I'm normally cackling about, and they can typically pick up when something is wrong, but I'm keeping that shit together, and they will essentially find out right now in this live if they were to ever pop in. And so they like, Stephanie, you not feeling it, like, what's going on? You got to get into the groove, pose, and this and that. And it was such a cool experience. But then it's like now, because the photographer Charnay, she sent me the photos, and I'm just looking back at that shit like, yep, I can see all of the disdain and the and the grief and just all of the other stuff in my eyes and just other stuff. And it was hard to not, tell them. And then we went to dinner shortly after that. I was looking for my damn wallet. It was a whole bunch of shit that just popped up that night. And then I had to drive all the way back home, again, not talking to them as support. And so after the photo shoot comes the 22nd, okay? Somehow, some way, 15 different people decide to reschedule things onto this particular day. So I had, what did I have going on? It was like Walk for Change with Maternity Journey, our doula collective. So we had that event that morning. Then it was like I had a cousin. I had to hurry up and drive from Houston all the way back to my side of town in Spring area to go and have lunch, because I had already rescheduled it, and I didn't want to make it seem like I didn't want to see her and all these different things that had transpired. And then I had other family to go see in the opposite direction. Then one of the friends that's a part of the podcast, it's her birthday, and she was just like, oh, you're gonna be there, and this and that, and she's not even knowing, like, bitch, I'm not gonna be there. I'm tired as hell, and I'm not finna explain to you why the fuck I can't be there. You just gonna figure that shit out later. And it started to dawn on me, that literally a year ago, at that time, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was driving my Malibu that could barely stay, it was barely hanging on. And I drove to her birthday brunch that turned into a proposal brunch. Okay, she wanted me to be a part of her bridal shower and all this stuff, and or bridal party, whatever you call those people that attend your wedding. I don't know. So she had turned that situation, and that was cool, but I was stressed out, like, oh my God, I got an oil leak, and I need to get the fuck up out of here. Like, that was what was going on. And literally the following evening, I went into labor with my daughter. So now I'm in a situation where I'm being pulled into a whole bunch of different places, and I'm not getting a break. And so the only thing that I would like to mention about the lunch that I had with my cousin was, like, I was rushing, and the client from earlier that I mentioned that had preeclampsia, and I thought her and the other girl was going to go into labor at the same time. She's back in the hospital, and they're keeping her ass overnight because they're like, okay, you have preeclampsia, but they're literally just giving her Tylenol for her headaches. They're not doing anything to help her pain or her blood pressure. Like, they're doing a whole bunch of too much of nothing to help her situation. So I felt like I had time. They were not inducing her at that point, so I went to go see my cousin for lunch, right? I go to lunch, talking to my cousin. This is a cousin on my dad's side. This side of the family, we don't normally, like, talk or anything because I basically grew up, and everybody has gone their separate ways, and I spent a lot of time trying to connect and this and that, and so we're about the same age. And I also kind of was on the defensive, like, in my experience with my dad and my dad's side of the family, and just really anybody, period, I've had experiences where people will want to come in like a mole, like they want to know information to take back to everybody else just to have it against you or something like that. And I didn't necessarily have that energy towards her. I wanted to welcome her and have a relationship, and how I have communicated always is to put my shit out there so people won't necessarily have something to hold against me. Like, it's already out there, bitch. You can't have no other shit to say other than just some BS that you got in your mind to say about me. And so in that exchange where we were talking, we actually talked about a lot of beautiful things, and it was a great exchange. And I feel like that's a great segue to the beginning of our relationship that we choose to grow together. And from there, she joined the recent live that I did. She joined the gardening group, and she's trying to do things not just as a part of a relationship with me, but she's doing it for her growth and her journey, and I respect that. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So that's the one thing I took from that, as well as she asked me, was I planning on having more kids? And I said, well, don't know what to tell you. I don't know, knowing good and fucking well I was pregnant. And so I left that situation. And so just to move on from the 22nd and we go into the 23rd, I had like a student midwives meeting, because not only do I want to be a birth worker, I'm thinking that I had the ability to be a midwife, and I want to go, it's called the PEP route with some other birth workers, in my community. And I'll get back to those women in a minute because they are very, very crucial to this story. And the following day, I literally had a lot of calls going on. So I had somebody I was interviewing for a live. I had someone that, was an actual client, and I'm like sitting in the meeting itself, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the first meeting, and I got a whole bunch of stuff on my mind. I got a whole bunch of things going on. And yeah, it was a lot. And so then at the same time when I'm interviewing my friend Brianna, Life of an Herb Wife, for the live series, I get a call from the client that had preeclampsia, and she literally got on all fours on the bed, delivered her baby like a fucking boss, and she did not need me. And instead of me feeling like, oh my God, I couldn't be there and support her, I was there for her virtually. I was there for her way before that. I drove all the way out to Katy to support her and do all those different things. And she took what I gave her and added that on to her experiences with her first birth and her first pregnancy. And she gave birth to her son the way that she wanted to. And I was so proud of her. Like, you did it, And that was huge. But then at the same time, when I was still interviewing my friend Brianna, I'll just leave it as a family emergency basically transpired and fucked my shit up. And so I had to literally go get my car out of the tow yard, went to go pick my car, bring it home, and I have a lot of bleeding. So in between the 24th and, when did I get that pregnancy test? So the 19th and the 24th, I'm debating on, am I going to get an abortion? Am I going to keep the baby? What am I going to do? I hear all of these different people in my family judging me in my fucking brain. I don't know what to do. And I come home and there's a lot of blood. So I'm like, oh shit. I literally stressed myself out to the point where I literally caused a miscarriage. And so I'm just freaking out. I'm telling my friend Deshaun, like, hey, check this out. What does this look like? It looks like, okay, it's a whole bunch of fucking bleeding. Doesn't look good. And so, but from there, nothing else had happened, right? And I was basically just kind of monitoring it. Nothing had happened, but I could still feel the feelings, the little fluttery feelings and shit moving around. So I'm on the edge of my damn seat. I'm sorry. And so, yeah, that basically transpired, y'all. And let me see. Yeah, and so this emergency that happens, it lasts from the 24th going into the 25th. And the 25th is a big deal because that's my daughter's birthday, right? So I end up having to postpone, the live. I postpone my daughter's birthday. We don't do like parties and like all this extravagant shit anyway. And her birthday is literally the day before Thanksgiving. So it wasn't going to be much of really anything. And I was so exhausted from literally the 19th until now. I finally just had a break to just kind of focus in on family. And we just start resting and relaxing and stuff. And so I also wanted to talk about the fact that, overall, of course, it's a roller coaster ride of emotions. But now, as far as the pain or the feelings that need to be addressed is where I'm going to, I guess, talk about that right now. And so the importance of my community, so my name on my personal page is called Of the Tribe. And of course, as I spoke before in the previous live, I feel like we do subconsciously manifest things or put things into place and we don't really realize it. And so I feel like, I am building my own tribe, whether that be my children, my partner, and then the other individuals in my community that just so happen to not be my family. And I feel like, the ways that my friends were able to just take the emergency that I experienced, to take the other, issues that I had going on all at once, and to be able to turn right around and say, hey, we're here to watch your kids if you need. We're here to give you, some extra funds to get you where you got to go, to do what you need to do. And there's no questioning. There's no judgment. There's no, oh, well, you need to do a payment plan with me and you need to write shit down and come up with a whole life plan as to why you have problems and try to look at you from the outside and make you feel like shit. Hey, I'm Melanie. Oh my God, it's a whole bunch of y'all in here. And so to have people in my community be able to openly and unconditionally love me, not only because of their own experiences, but to be able to propel us forward as a culture, I'm forever indebted to them, because what I've always wanted, which was a true family and a true community and all those things, is continuing to build itself and come into fruition. And but simultaneously things have shifted as far as my mindset and my outlook on things, because immediately upon finding out about my pregnancy, it's like, you're doing too fucking much. You're doing too much for everybody but you. And this is the exact same thoughts that I had as soon as they pulled my daughter out, put her on my chest, and I just started to think about, like, wow, I'm doing too much shit. So fast forward to a year later, and I am trying to get clients. I'm trying to convince them why they need a doula. I'm trying to, do the most. And then the clients that I do have, of course, they, appreciate me or whatever the case. It's also that a lot of times they don't really understand the gravity of the work and the gravity of the sacrifice that you put in to be a birth worker and whatever birth work looks like to you. And yeah, it puts a lot of things into perspective about what I even want to do, because how can I continue birth work with multiple children? How can, or as a birth doula, and basically cater to another woman's needs on a day-to-day basis continually? I'm going to have to shift things around, as well as, rely on my community to support me while I go through this journey. And I think with my daughter, I ultimately created my business out of this, and I felt like, I can fucking do it. And, I got all this shit, going for me. And I'm just going to keep pushing forward, because definitely don't want to go back to the 9-to-5. Definitely don't want to do all these other things that people consider success. And I want to do things true to how I feel. And, so I can definitely do that with any additional person that comes, into the family. So, yeah, but it's been hard trying to stay on that level, because you can instantly get sucked back into, oh, so you don't use protection. Oh, you wasn't thinking. Oh, what is your partner doing? Oh, you're never gonna be shit. Or or it's just that that vision of a barefoot pregnant woman, the fucking food stamp queen, all the different things, just a housewife in general, all the different things that you can feel like repulsed by. And but since then I've had a break, and I'm not currently working right now. I don't have a postpartum client through the doula agency, and I have an interview for another job, but I'm pretty much just chilling right now to give myself some for real R&R. But it's also giving me the time to basically reflect. And so being somebody that is breaking so many typos. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Oh, hold on. Embrace Your Birth Doula says that's how life is. We constantly have to make so many different adjustments. We have to make as life prevails. Yes, I did understand what you were trying to say. It's a mindset, girl. Yes. My husband says just throw another hot dog in the pot. Yes. You come first. I remind myself this every day. If your cup isn't full, how can you extend yourself to others? Very, very true. Thank you, Keisha. And so that's very, very true. And being somebody that is, again, trying to break generational curses and do things differently than many people in your family have never seen before. And I honestly would say that since 2015, I have been very, very separate from my family, because I've been living on my own and doing things on my own for a very, very long time now. And it still feels bad sometimes, because you want those people to be able to support you in the ways that you want them to. And it's too much fucking work to try to reteach somebody that don't want to be taught anything. And sometimes it's hard. A lot of times it's hard. And I think that my dad specifically, like, his literal voice is in my head about the first time I told him I was pregnant. It was just like, oh, well, don't look at me with all these kids and think that this is just fun out here and it's easy. Or just really anything else he says. It's just like bullshit. And so I'm just trying to, like, make sense of those coping mechanisms and shit that he says to try to do things differently here, but then to also feel like, damn, my kids don't necessarily have a grandfather that they see all the time. And, yeah. I did have concerns about birth work turning into union work. And what I mean by that is the union work I used to do, how people react when you tell them that you're pregnant can be trauma that you carry on for subsequent pregnancies. Yes, that's literally all it is. And I think that the entire time I've been grieving for the past 5 or 6 days has been me just tripping out on, being coerced to have an abortion with the first pregnancy. Everybody just kind of like having disdain and, just disappointment because you're like the golden child and this and that. And then with my daughter, it was just kind of like, oh, doing this again, that type of thing. And with the union work or labor union work, it was something that I thought that I had such a passion for, because this particular field, it started to integrate systemic oppression. We started to talk about how slavery literally created jobs and how we can transform the work environment just by, educating, edifying, and just doing all these different things. And it's very, very similar to the work that I do as a birth worker and how I educate and really teach folks about the root of fucking slavery and how that created almost everything, if not everything. Our culture and who we are has a lot of contributing factors into the way that hospitals are, period. And I was concerned about how, even though they're very similar in the passions and how I can see that fire in myself to advocate and be an activist and to be all these different things, I also started to feel like this shit feels like I am taking too much. It's like I'm starting to shift the way that I talk to clients now. It's like, okay, if you don't have the space to fucking listen to me, or if you ignore me, or if you miss an appointment and you don't give a damn, especially if this shit is donation based, which means free because nobody's paying me, like, I'm not going to continue to entertain. And then it also touches on something else that came up because Earth Mama Medicine, it's another person that I respect very much. She recently had a post not too long ago, and a girl was in the comments, or a person was in the comments, and there was an exchange about the fact that when Earth Mama Medicine started in the beginning, it was like all about living in a van and not having to rely on money, and we shouldn't have to pay for things, and all this different type of lifestyle mindset. And then fast forward to her life now, where she has a home in the woods and she's has that privilege to live how she does. You know what I'm saying? And so that particular person in the comments was just like, why do we have to pay for everything? You used to say that we didn't have to pay for stuff. And so I think there's a disconnect with what money really is, as far as it being energy, or, contributing to those people that do the work and actually having an understanding of the work itself. And if you know that we're in a capitalist society and we're in the works to create a community-based society to where we don't have to have money and this and that. What's her at? It's Earth Mama Medicine. All one word, no underscore. Her name is Valadia Chapman. She has a YouTube channel, and she also is on YouTube. And so, on Instagram. And so there was that disconnect there, because she felt like, oh, well, she should get this ability to go to this retreat free, or be able to get this particular webinar free if this information is, if this information is supposed to be for everybody. And so I definitely had to rethink that, because a lot of people that have been on my lives themselves, especially Keisha, like what we talked about, like getting paid what you're worth and this and that. And of course, not charging $1 million for doula services that you're not even providing to your clients, because a lot of them people are fucking it up for us, for sure. Because it's like, they barely do any prenatals. They barely do any type of experience, where I've seen my friend Brianna, like, she literally will give them an experience. Like, she will really, really give them an experience in addition to the service. And I believe that type of work should be paid for. It's just that I'm trying to get that type of same reciprocation while I'm trying to serve the Black community, the brown community, literally any fucking community. It just hasn't been the white community. And I just, I've been wanting to help, and it just seems like the people that I am finding have been great, and then others are not so great. Let's see. And then Miss Shafia Monroe recently posted about Black birth traditions, and there is a picture of it's like a carving of an African woman giving birth, and I saw that yesterday. And bartering is okay in my book. Yes, ma'am. I definitely am a person that is about bartering, because I offer this to my clients as well. I'm like, okay, if you don't have physical money, as you claim you don't, and that's fine, let's talk about ways that we can trade services. If I know that you make body oils, or you babysit, or you do this or do that, like, let's trade our services, so I can at least feel like I'm getting my cup filled while I'm literally giving my all to fill yours. And yes, bartering is amazing. So back to Miss Queen Shafia Monroe. So that particular post, she talks about the fact that you can acknowledge in that photo. So there is you can see here, I literally have the same carving breasts as the woman in that picture. And the fact that the women, basically the way that her breasts lie, they go into two different directions, because people talk shit about the fact that, oh, my breasts are saggy now that I breastfeed and this and that. It says that experts can look at her breasts and can tell that she has breastfed children before. And the fact that the space between the breasts is an indication, it's a status symbol of motherhood. And being a mother is considered the highest universal degree that you can put a woman. And I kind of took that with the fact that I have felt disdain for, in the past, I felt about myself and just in general, because I felt like it's not possible to do both, to work and be a mom, or that you have to sacrifice so much in exchange for the other. And I may have been raised by someone who had to exchange herself in different ways, and I wasn't able to get that. So my thought process, as well as the thought process of my father, about what a woman is capable of doing, like, I felt a disgust about the housewife, the this and the that, and look at me now, and I'm literally able to do both if I decide that I fucking want to. And any mother is a working mother, even if you don't have a fucking job. Like, the work, it's literally 98 hours a week that we put in to be moms alone. Then you add on a fucking job on top of that. Once you see birth, you get it. Women, closest thing to God, in my honor. Yes. Yeah, so I definitely respect myself more, and I'm grateful for Shafia Monroe to post that, and see myself in a lot of ways, and that I can fucking do this shit with an extra kid. I really don't. Yeah, I gotta let that shit go. Let's see. And so, as well as, that I am beginning to feel that excitement, and the fact that, in between this time and sometime around July next year, I can accomplish a lot. And even if I fucking don't, I can still, get things done as I go. I have passions, as I talked with my friend Brianna before, because I don't think that birth work is the end all for me, or that this is the only thing that I can do. I believe that things have shifted for a reason, because I need to slow the fuck down and not sacrifice the things that I hold so dear, as far as my family, meaning my kids and my partner. And maybe that doesn't mean that I'm going to be a birth worker. Maybe I'm still going to learn all the things as, going through the PEP route and learning things that midwives know and all that stuff. But maybe I want to do reproductive justice. Maybe I want to sue some motherfuckers that's doing shit they ain't got no fucking business. Maybe, I want to work on family planning. Maybe I want to focus in on postpartum. Maybe I want to continue this idea that will turn into the yoni steaming and womb wellness webinar that's going to be interactive as well, and educating girls to women that are entering menopause about all of the things that you did not learn growing up, all the things that you still don't know now, and teaching girls about their womb space, teaching them about, or anyone that identifies, anyone that has a uterus, anyone that, anyone is open to learn about yoni steaming, womb wellness, and how menstruation works, ovulation, sex, fucking abortion, loss, all the different things. We're going to talk about that there, and I'm excited for that. And as well as the fact that I'm an artist, and I have not had the time to finish projects and finish other things, and I could be making prints and all those things and blowing people out the water. Not that it's a competition, but I got so much in my mind that I could literally bring out and I can focus in on. And as well as I've talked with Brianna as well about us creating a retreat in the past, and we are still, speaking that into existence. But maybe the yoni steaming and womb wellness and us creating community and all that stuff, maybe that's also another extension of us, is creating retreats, whether they be right at home or they be somewhere else. Like it's so many different things that we could do, and that I can be a part of. And maybe especially Dr. Stephanie Mitchell, for sure, like seeing her has always been a reflection of who I am, who I can be, who I will be, because she has the first freestanding birth center in Gainesville, Alabama. What the fuck? Like, you are literally the epitome of freedom and saying fuck the system, and I'm gonna create space for black birthing bodies. And I'm forever grateful for that, because I always felt like that type of voice that you have, I had to silence, or that type of voice I had to change it for somebody else. And you always remind me to never dim my fucking light or whatever. And maybe I want to have a birth center here that's free. Maybe I want a community center to include all of my sisters that do services of any kind. Maybe we're going to teach community-based living and learning and things like that. Like, we can do really anything. And in closing, the last thing that I want to say is I have gratitude for my relationship. And I feel like I have not necessarily told him that. I know that he can feel it, of course. But our relationship has transformed over time. And I'm very grateful for the space that he has given me through this journey of me being an entrepreneur and, me trying to, buckle down and pursue my dreams, and him being here and learning so much so fast as far as what I do as a mom, and having to reciprocate that in his own way for our children, as well as because as far as like the man's role, it's like, oh, he's supposed to provide and he's supposed to do this, do that, and a lot of times that's not the case. And I'm not finna feel ashamed about my dynamic at all. Like, I want to pursue my shit, he's pursuing his shit in the house, and we finna get this going. And like, I honestly feel like when throughout this process of me being in the indecision about whether I wanted to keep this baby and all of that, of course I have people in my corner that are like, I support you 100%, and I'm always going to be here no matter what your decision is. And that's beautiful, beautiful. And I also feel like also behind that, my partner feels the same, but it's a different type of thing, because it's like, I can literally change my decision tomorrow. I can literally like just be crying as soon as I get off this shit. And then it's like, he's right here to like talk with me through it. And it's an actual conversation. It's not me feeling like I have to make this decision on my own. And it's also an excitement, because we are planning on moving. We're planning on doing a whole bunch of different things. And I really feel like if he didn't support me the way that he does, which is crazy that people won't even think about that, because my partner is not always with me. I'll have the kids, or I may not have the kids. I'll be doing shit. And people don't think like, oh, she has a partner, he must be supporting her. They don't think that initially. They just think that he's not present and he doesn't do anything. And I think the reflection of how much I speak freely and I continue to love and grow is a reflection of how he loves me. And so I look forward to our journey together and how we handle things. And I think that that's why I got the reading that I did from Lonnie, was because I needed to address the pain and address the fear and address the grief that I had been holding on to for all this time. And now that it's here, to present to all of you, and whoever else catches the playback, because there was quite a few family members in this mug. And I appreciate y'all, listening in, popping in and out and stuff. But I think I'm going to 100% let go of the fear and just allow myself to just continue to flow and be open to all of the opportunities that are going to present themselves to me. And yeah, that was reflections of the past 3 weeks. And what I have going on next week is a wonderful live with Brianna Bundage, aka Life of an Herb Wife, on December 7th, as well as the following Wednesday Rose Golden Hour. I appreciate everybody that stayed the entire time. Anybody that catches the playback. I am so excited that Dr. Midwife watched almost the entire time. This is insane. Like, I'm like over the moon. Like, I'm so happy. But yeah, thank you to everyone that was in the comment section. All my sisters here. I love y'all, and I will catch y'all when I see you. Peace.